Hello to all members. Chef Sam and I are here today to talk about food, specifically dry aging beef. While Chef is the expert, I am an avid at-home chef. And I would say my specialty is anything meat, whether it's grilling, smoking, or braising. I'm always looking for different ways to get to the finished product. If you are a foodie, which I am, I'm sure you can vividly recall a special meal you had at a special restaurant that changed the way you look at food. For me, that was in 2005 at the Fairmont TPC Scottsdale in Arizona. The special that night was a 42-day dry-aged New York strip steak. I asked our server what makes a dry-aged steak so special. Well, he went and got the chef, and the chef came out with a full dry-aged strip loin that he was preparing to butcher. Simply put, it looked disgusting. I wouldn't eat it. He assured us it was not, and went on to explain the dry aging process. And I can tell you that steak was the best steak I'd ever had in my life to that point. Today we're going to explain to you the difference between wet aging and dry aging. Now Chef is going to explain wet aging process.
As Chris said, we're going to discuss our beef product here at the Hunt Club. About a year ago, the members may recall we introduced a steakhouse menu, and we ran that last winter. And at that time, as per Chris's suggestion, we started to dry age our own meat. Initially, we dry aged in bags called a Umai dry age bag, and we had a system for that. We've since purchased a beautiful dry age refrigerator specifically designed to dry age meat. And this refrigerator holds a specific temperature and also adds a UV protection to ensure that we have the highest quality dry aged beef that we can produce. What you're looking at here in front of me are two types of beef. On my right here, we have something called rail beef. This is what you might see in your butcher shop if they have a large refrigerator. Sides of this type of beef would be hanging from the rafters. It's also referred to as hanging beef. In particular, this is the rib. So with this particular piece of meat, we're going to end up making tomahawk chops, tomahawk rib chops, in about 45 days when this dry ages. But what you're seeing here is part of the prime rib. We have the flank steak and spiralis steak and cap on top, and then we have the short rib closest to the upper part of the rib bones. So this came right from the farm in Eastern Ontario. It's a local cattle farm, and this piece of meat would look like this before it gets to your actual butcher. So we're able to get it direct from the farm. The other piece of meat here is a prime rib that is wet aged. So this is the type of beef that you would buy from your butcher. He may sell you a whole roast, or they may cut it up and have ribeye steaks for you to purchase. And as you can see, this is in a bag here. And the reason they call it wet age is because it's sitting in its own juices, and it tenderizes for about 14 days at the butcher before he cuts it up into steaks and puts it out for sale.
As Chef mentioned, this is wet aged beef, and the popularity of this is it gets to your grocery store and your butcher. It does not lose any moisture, doesn't lose any of its weight, so the yields are higher, and consequently the price per pound is lower. A piece of dry aged beef, which is basically a controlled decomposition of the beef. That sounds kind of gross, but the environment is strictly controlled in the fridge that we have, and in the dry aging process, the temperature is controlled just above freezing. The humidity is controlled around 80%, and there's a UV light that eliminates any bad bacteria. The most common age for dry aged beef is 28 to 42 days, though some really high-end restaurants are aging beef for up to 120 days. The flavors you're going to get from dry aged beef, the longer it's dry aged is more towards a blue cheese flavor, and around 28 days you could have some cheese flavor, but also kind of butter is what it smells like, and a beefier flavor. The dry aging process exposes the meat to air and breaks down the connective tissue in the meat, takes out moisture, and ultimately makes the steak more tender and more flavorful. loss of moisture, the steak reduces in weight, and there's trimmings that come off the beef, and I'm going to show you that in a minute, but that obviously reduces the yield and consequently a higher price per pound. Most experts agree that not all cuts of meat benefit from dry aging, so leaner cuts typically don't benefit from dry aging, and meats that have more fat in them benefit, so your ribeye or strip loin definitely benefit from dry aging. Here we have a 28-day dry-aged whole ribeye. So you can see the color's changed, and it's got a hard crust on the inside. This is called the pellicle. That all has to be trimmed off. So you can see it's hard. You can't eat that. Some people will use that and grind it up into hamburgers and things. And here's a steak that's cut, that's untrimmed. Okay, you can see it's still got all the pieces on it, and this is how we do it. And then here is the finished product. Beautiful 28-day dry-aged ribeye steak. I can assure you, if you had one this summer, and I got lots of comments from you that you really enjoyed the dry steak, but for me, it was a life-changing moment and the only way I like my steak now.
What a beautiful dry-aged ribeye steak. It's well marbled. As Chris said, you see the meat is a little bit darker while the fat changes to a lighter color. It's like butter in your mouth. We currently have this on our kit menu. It comes vac packed, and you can cook it up straight away, or this will also freeze perfectly for about 6 months. Currently on the kit menu, we have the ribeye steak, as you see here. As well, we've dry-aged New York steaks. So you have a choice of the ribeye or the New York, which are both fantastic. In a few months, when this rail beef is dry-aged and ready, we are going to have a limited amount of tomahawk, long rib, dry-aged steaks exclusively for Toronto Hunt members, and we're going to have it on the menu, or you can buy the tomahawk raw and cook it on your barbecue at home. This would be a great tomahawk chop to cook for your families if you want to impress the neighbors, if you want to celebrate a great occasion. There's nothing better than a tomahawk steak to do that.
Thanks for joining us today, and I hope you enjoyed information on our dry aging beef program at the club. In our next video, we're going to show you how to cook these beautiful steaks in 2 methods, pan frying and a reverse sear. Stay well, be safe, and we'll see you again soon.